Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to this episode. Now I have another guest speaker in this episode with me. She is a professor and an academic leader from Technical University of Munich. I had a great chance to meet her during my master studies, and she inspired me how she bridges entrepreneurs and the world. During the episode, we will hear more about passion as following our previous episode. So, Professor Breugst, I mentioned you as my professor, academic leader, and a bridge between entrepreneurs and the world. But how would you describe who you are when these labels fall away?
So, first of all, thank you so much for having me and for giving a voice also to the academic side. And I think when you take away all sorts of titles, I'm just a person who's really curious about the people side of entrepreneurship. I really love exploring how entrepreneurs think, what drives them, how they navigate uncertainty. So, my job is actually learning from what entrepreneurs go through and then sharing those insights across different communities. And this can be in my work as a researcher, in the classroom, or directly with founders.
So it sounds like you follow your curiosity and gather the answers for more academic relations. Actually, we can say that science starts with your observations, but I wonder your dreams behind it. What was the dream that you still carry with you today and something that shaped you maybe in your professional career?
So I think what really fascinates me, has ever fascinated me, and still keeps me motivated is this question of how can people create something out of nothing? And then, of course, what can we learn from this process, and how can I make these learnings accessible to the next generations of talents?
Yeah, you're right. We say, oh, they had good friends around or had a certain amount of money or already found a new idea from zero. But even though entrepreneurs have those, I think there are humans behind. And you devoted your career to studying the people side of entrepreneurship, which means maybe most of the time emotions, trust issues, and a lot of teamwork. But what first sparked your interest in the human dynamics behind startup teams?
So when I graduated from high school, I was in general interested in psychology. So I've always been interested in learning more about how people think and feel, how they manage to work together. And then during my studies, I noticed that most of what I was learning actually focused on established organizations. And this then made me wonder what happens at the very beginning when organizations are just being created. And can psychology help us to make sense of this stage of, organizational birth, so to say? And this curiosity then inspired me to move away from, the core of what I learned in psychology and really do a PhD in entrepreneurship.
So, your background combines psychology and entrepreneurship, but how did those disciplines shape your research lens also in academic work?
So I'd say that my research really is right at the intersection of entrepreneurship and psychology. So I'm fascinated by entrepreneurship as a phenomenon, right? Looking at entrepreneurs, observing them, this is absolutely inspiring and amazing. But instead of drawing on like typical concepts from business or economics, I draw on psychology, psychological concepts to just better understand how entrepreneurs think, feel, and act when they're about to start their own business.
Yeah, it's also very different and important combination that you have, which gives you success. We are seeing the things from different angles. So I think with our generation now we investigate deeply the traditional concepts or words, let's say, that we already use and trying to see the true meanings of common words. So now I will come to another common thinking regarding entrepreneurship, that maybe building teams around a new business idea. What people always says is good friendship there and in the startup teams. But you have written about how trust is built in startup teams. You have also investigated how emotions spread in teams. Can a founder's passion and trust make the team more motivated, really?
So that's a great question. I think that while founders might often think that entrepreneurship is very rational, it has a really strong emotional component. And when you look at all those feelings that entrepreneurs have in their journey, then passion is actually pretty complex because it's not just this positive experiences, but it's also often connected to some sorts of goals or ideas that founders have. And those positive feelings can definitely be contagious in a startup, but in our own work, we've shown that this typically only works when the team members and the founders share the same goals. And you also mentioned trust, which obviously is very important when you work in those small entrepreneurial teams. And trust can even be more interpersonal, right from the beginning. And it often grows from the ways how founders engage with their teams. So in our own study, for example, on trust, we've shown that it really depends on also how founders speak about the team and with the team, if they can bring up a variety of different topics. So trust, emotions, that's often something that founders not necessarily have on the radar at first, but this really can make or break your venture.
And yeah, with this passion and the mindset, I would like to come maybe more technical questions and regarding the future. And what changes do you see in how young founders think today? Maybe if you would like to compare with some years ago, I'm asking this with respect to new technologies and the changes in mindset of people.
So I now work for Tom for 13 years. So I have been able to see quite a lot of changes in how our entrepreneurial talents think. And I think there are perhaps three relevant shifts that I would like to point out. So first of all, this clear shift in mindset that our talents are not just interested in building a successful business, but also that they integrate their values and they think about the impact that their business can make. And this is why I think that we see way more sustainable ventures than we've seen in the past, or at least, ventures that include some elements of sustainability. And second, founders have also become more experimental in a way. So they are much more willing to use technology to test their ideas really quickly and learn as they go. And finally, this is a very recent trend that I've noticed. Founders seem to be more open to talk about their mental health. So they really want to create better working conditions for themselves, but also for their teams.
Mhm. And I would like to just take one point. It's really interesting topic that how founders start businesses nowadays with new technologies and how they experience it. And now we speak more and more artificial intelligence like everywhere. New startups are coming to world day by day, which uses AI, maybe more than also from the traditional companies. So when you look at the future of the entrepreneurship in the age of AI, what excites you the most, and maybe what worries you?
So what I think is really exciting about AI is that can take over many routine tasks. It can give founders more time to focus on the creative side of building their business. So it really opens up an incredible amount of opportunities for innovation. And smaller startups just have a chance to compete with established companies on a more level playing field. But at the same time, I sometimes also worry that AI could make some aspect of the entrepreneurial journey a little bit too superficial. For example, if founders rely heavily on AI to generate ideas, they just might move straight from concept to execution, and they might neglect the testing of their assumptions. And so they might develop products that just fail to meet the real customer needs. And the teams just also might miss a chance to learn together and to really understand their market.
I totally agree. And my next question is again coming to the Germany and the German companies and more traditional companies that I mentioned. How do you see Germany and German companies adapting to new waves of technologies? I have also seen that your work touches on how entrepreneurs influence innovation in more traditional companies. What trends or changes stand out to you?
So I think in general, established companies in Germany have been a little bit cautious with new technology, and in particular when it comes to digital technologies. But what I see in my research, but also in my interactions with more established companies, is that they are more and more interested in learning from startups, also to take on more experimental ways of working. And what we can really see now is that entrepreneurship also has somewhat become a trend, right? So more established companies are also really interested in partnerships with startups. They have set up incubators, accelerators, there are corporate venture capital programs. So my hope is that it's not just startups learning from established companies, but also established companies who that work more closely with those early stage ventures and that they can jointly test new ideas and technologies.
Yeah, also as a consultant, and I see in the same perspective of consulting in big traditional organizations, often they decide to collaborate with startups nowadays to understand better the new innovations and adapt themselves. Also, from the leadership point of view, people are aware of new technologies and try to bring in their scope of working, even in big entities, day by day. But however, I would like to ask, do you think being the technology related person is enough to lead today, or does leadership now require a deeper emotional and strategic awareness?
So I think in our modern society, tech skills are definitely important. So you just need to understand the technologies behind your project. But I also think that tech skills on their own are just not enough. Leadership is just always also about people, and you need to be able to motivate them, to coordinate them. And in particular, in a startup where you have lots and lots of uncertainty, leaders also have to understand the emotions that come up in their teams, and they need to help them to make sense of the situation. So I'd say that an ideal modern leader would have a good mix of technological know how, strategic thinking, but also people skills.
So now we are coming to speak about emotions, and I would like to come to more maybe personal side of being a leader. I want to ask about your personal leadership insights because you're a also successful woman leader in academic world. When things maybe get overwhelming, let's say, what helps you to stay grounded and clear-minded?
I'm a researcher and I feel very privileged that my work gives me the chance to step back and reflect. I think that's even a part of being a researcher. And these pauses really help me to see things more clearly. But of course, reflection alone isn't enough. And I think that's not just true for leaders, for academics, but everyone needs to detach. Everyone needs some breaks. And so spending time with family and friends, being outdoors, engaging in hobbies, that's something that can really, really help you to clear your mind. And for me, for example, one of my hobbies is baking. And sometimes I really enjoy just creating something with my own hands. So overall, I think it's this mix of thinking deeply and taking care of myself. And this helps me to then be focused and centered on my work.
So it sounds amazing, especially the baking part. And most of the time, doing something totally different helps me a lot too, to feel grounded. And even sometimes I find some answers that I'm looking while doing something entirely different. And I wonder, how do you personally stay adaptable in a world that constantly changes with technologies, research, people? Where do you learn nowadays?
So I think the point that you make about staying adaptable is absolutely crucial. And for me, connected to staying adaptable is also staying curious. And again, I'd say it's really part of my job. As a researcher, you should enjoy learning. You should enjoy to ask questions. And this is what I really do. And there's a more formal side to this. So I try to stay up to date with reading like the latest research articles and attending conferences. But I also really enjoy learning in less formal ways. So, for example, I enjoy listening to podcasts on entrepreneurship and technology. I really thrive in conversations with colleagues around the world. I like talking with entrepreneurs and other players in our ecosystem. And of course, I also learn from my students. So each and every year, I have new cohorts, new talents with a fresh mind. And this whole combination of curiosity, structured learning, and just staying in touch with different people really helps me to eventually stay adaptable, I guess.
Yes, I think the same. Curiosity is the key to staying adaptable with the combination of bi-directional learning. Let's say for you, from teacher to student, student to teacher. In my case, I learn a lot from my customers too, while searching for them or answering their questions. I don't want to close this episode, but I came to my last question that I'm enjoying while asking to my guests. I like to unmute my guests about big failing stories because I believe failing is the part as a big part of learning, and all successful people learn from it. Now we wonder: is there a moment when something didn't work out and you failed really big, and how did you manage your emotions and work as a human and as an academic leader? Let's say.
As a researcher, I have to admit that failure is just part of the job. So data collections don't always work out. The hypotheses that you had at the beginning just fail. You want to publish your findings in reputable journals, but these journals just have a very rigorous peer review system. So acceptance rates are really low. It is completely normal for manuscripts that they are rejected. So failure is just really connected to the job of a researcher. The good thing is, over time, you just get used to it. And then those experiences over and over again help you to build resilience. And one thing that really helps me is that I try to have a portfolio of projects. So if there is one setback, it's not that all progress is gone. And I also try to learn from each and every failure. And I think that it's important that as an academic leader, we also admit and we show that it's really normal to fail and to reflect on it and then to keep moving forward. So while I appreciated all of your questions, I think this is a very important question to ask, that we normalize failure and that we see it really as an opportunity to do better next time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this episode. And I really enjoyed with your answers and listening you, learning from you. And thank you so much, Nicola.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed being on the podcast.